yet another video on the Swift app development series. Uh, in this particular series, we've been working on the rock, paper, and scissors app. A couple of videos have already gone into the series, and this will be the last of those videos. In the last video, we stopped with adding this code, this line of code, and the whole idea was that we made the app choice sign, right, to like kind of appear in the app label when the buttons are tapped. That's what the goal of that was. So essentially, we set the sign label to the appropriate emoji using the compound properties on the sign you created earlier. Remember uh, in your user interface. So the next thing we're going to do right now is to disable and hide the player sign buttons, because when you're playing you don't want those buttons to appear, and the way you do that is you literally call up for example the rock button, and then you call a specific property. One of the properties you say enabled is enabled because you don't want it enabled. That's why you choose false, and then you do that for the next button, and then our next button is paper button. You use the property is enabled again, and you say false, and then you use the last, you go to the last button, which is scissors. Button is enabled, and you go for false also. So once that is done, you've been able to disable the buttons, right? So it's almost like what happens when they go gray. You also want to make sure that you also hide the buttons. There's a way to do that too, right? Where you're using another set of another property. So and this tutorial is actually literally just helping you how to show you how to hide, how to disable is hidden, and the property. Now because we want, this is hidden property, we do not want it to be hidden. We want it to be hidden, right? So that's why we would say true, and then we will go for the next, and paper button is hidden. Yes, we want it to be hidden, so it will be true. And then the last is scissors, which is our third button. If you've been following the video, is hidden equals to true. So once you've been able to, because when you're playing these games, you want your button to be disabled and also hidden from view. Well, remember, technically, the program is running from top to bottom, right? Now, but at some point, if the player buttons are hidden, you now realize that the player wouldn't know, what their choice was, right? So at some point, you want, you know, to enable those buttons only for the particular choice of the player, right? So how you do that is you essentially include, let me go enter, we'll use an if else statement, and let me paste this here. So it will be something like this. If the sign is rock, then rock button is hidden is false, right? So depending on which of them is the sign from the player, you can decide to. So it's not all of them at this particular stage, right, are not assigned false, right? Is hidden false. So you want it to appear. It's either this appears or disappears or disappears, but it's conditional on either whether it's rock or it's paper and then any other thing. In this case, we only have one extra thing, which is your scissors app. So you've gotten that. So um, that's where we've gotten that. So the other thing we want to do is to have the play button also show itself again, right? It has to, you can make it show itself again after it's gone through this process, right? And then we will say play again button. Now we're talking about the play again button, right? To make that button visible again. That's after you have played. Remember, you're trying to repeat the process this time, right? You want the play again button to come on. So you use is hidden, because our focus is not those three buttons, but the play again button that's at the bottom of your page. So if I say it's hidden, I say false. By saying false, I'm unhiding it, right? So that it becomes visible. So that's what we've done here. So as this begins to play from top to bottom, you can see the progression of how things change depending on what the specific condition is. And notice, because you have done that in the play section, you want to also go back. So I'm going to copy this. And for each of the situations, after each of the conditions, you have the play, and then you have the win, draw, and what's the third one? Win, lose, and draw. After each of those, right, you want that button, to the play again button, to come alive again, so that the next round of play will happen. So I'm going to copy this, and you're going to go include it in each, under the win case. We will include it under the win case. We will call it under the lose case, so that whichever case it is where it happens, you can make a call. I think we are good at this time. So we're going to just try to run the app and see what we get. Let me minimize the window and then run the app and see what we get. Let's see how it builds. Oh, let me minimize this. Sorry, I had this. Okay, let me run it again. Simulator. Run this simulator and see what we get. Yep, so this is what we get. So if I tap this, you lose, and then I go play again. I tap something again. These are the two combinations. You win. I tap this again. You win. So this is the play again button we had put at the bottom, remember? Okay, so that after each play, it displays again. Displays again. So let me try playing again. Yeah. So notice that it's hidden at this point, right? After playing, it appears, right? Play again, it appears. So that's essentially the last video on this. So to get a grasp of what's happening, I think it's awesome, or it will be advisable rather, that you go through the video maybe more than once methodically and think through the various steps. Why exactly are we including any specific code snippets? Why are we referencing certain properties? And then walk through that process. As you do that, like, you keep developing, the ability to understand and hopefully begin to develop your own code around whatever your interest is using Swift. So thank you again for listening, and I appreciate you participating in these videos. I hope they are helpful to you. I'll talk to you again sometime. Ciao.